Welcome to Deges Dragons.
I thought this was going to be hard, but...
Welcome to Deges Dragons.
Who wants some of the Ripper?
They're state champs, baby. Woo!
He's clearly Captain Crunch. I'm a man of the people.
Shattered world.
Ripper knows. Ripper always knows.
And welcome to another episode of the Degecast, the supplemental podcast for our YouTube show, Deges and Dragons. I'm your host, Nate Lindberg, and you can find me on Twitter at Nate Lindberg. And you can follow our brand on Twitter, Facebook, and most importantly, YouTube at Degetime. That's Degetime. And hey, do you want to be a part of this show? Please do. Join us. Email us, degetime@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail at the Degetime voicemail at 617-506-9686, and we'll answer your questions or read your comments right here next week. Now, he is our veteran RPG gamer, the permanent member of our Deges and Dragons player panel, and he's the reason I'm constantly looking over my shoulder, Tony Shamuxness.
Hey, at least you're always prepared now, right?
That's right. Hey, I was a Boy Scout. Always be prepared, right?
Yep.
Absolutely. And next, we have our therapy expert, our resident game master, and the reason Tony constantly looks over his shoulder, Conrad Audette.
What's going on, guys?
All right, so we are in the midst of our Clink gameplay, and we were talking, and there's really not a whole heck of a lot for us to talk about in terms of additional therapy benefits or anything like that we haven't already covered or don't plan to cover in additional episodes. So we're gonna take a minute and talk a little bit real quick about the one mechanic that we did actually see here tonight, here in this past episode of Clank. And that was scarring out Billy's character. What was his name? Casanova Brigadoon. That's right. He, in hilarious fashion, he's no longer part of this game. I don't know. What do you guys? What did you guys make of Casanova Brigadoon actually having to take off? And it may have had something to do with his train schedule in real life.
Yeah, that had something to do with it, but at the same point, I thought it was absolutely hilarious that he scarred out, and then moments afterwards, we realized that he didn't actually accomplish anything at that point, at least in the cave with with that earth elemental or whatever he slew.
That wasn't even the Oni.
That was my favorite part.
Actually, I think it was mine too. But also, just the sheer fact that he cleaved the thing in two after we spent how many minutes, how many rolls trying to defeat this fire Oni, and then all of a sudden, in just like one fell swoop, boom, cleaves this thing in half.
Yeah, none of our characters actually knew he had the sword either, which also ensued hilarity.
Yeah, that was not the scarring out, but like that wasn't on the fly where I was like, I'm going to pretend that this wasn't the Oni, or I'm going to, like, I had written down like a golem is on the way to the Earth Oni to interfere as like a challenge that they'll come across. So like I was just playing out what I had written down, and it just was like, it's like, all right, I want to like slay this thing. I'm like, all right, like sure, go for it. But I think just kind of what we've already talked about before and what Clink does well, despite losing his creed, and that's really like the attachment to this group's cause, which is kind of like viewed as a negative thing. I mean, it's from accumulating scars, which are negative. But he ultimately found something and discovered something within his character that was just the narrative moving forward, kind of echoing what we talked about last week. And his character, he like finds this peace based on, rock slide, destroyed my village, and my ability to slay animated earth has now like brought that memory to a close. And I've felt like I almost avenged my village. And so now I shall derobe and flee into the woods as a free and happy man. So
the derobing part, like, it just got me. Like, was it necessary? It was definitely necessary, but was it really
Didn't
necessary?
need any earthly possessions anymore.
I guess not. But don't you still want to be like, we're in the middle of the woods. Don't you want to be protected by the like prickly thorn bushes, the sun, other creepy crawlies, animals, spiders, snakes, other
Oni.
things? Oni, I mean, I guess he scarred out. He went a little crazy, maybe.
No, he became one with the universe. So none of those things would do him harm, or he is them.
Okay, all right. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean because also in Clink, like when you do lose your creed, you're given the opportunity to find a new reason for continuing on with the group, and the trains of reality did not allow for Casanova Brigadoon to find a new cause to rally around. But in another Clink game, when something like this happens, you look to,
like, he could have made a new creed, like, say, always finish what you started or something along those lines. So he may be on the same adventure as the rest of us, but maybe his motives are just slightly different. Like, he's not doing it for the town anymore. He doesn't care about the townspeople. He just doesn't want to leave a job undone.
Yeah, or even his
ego's
friends. Say, like, now that you've like destroyed a fire Oni, like, together, like, you went through something, pretty heavy as a group, and you accomplished something great as a group. So now, like, I'm not gonna leave like these guys just like in the dark now. I will not destroy the Oni for the town, but I will destroy the Oni for my friends.
Exactly.
So
For the Horde.
And I really liked too seeing. I like reviewed it through the eyes of a counselor, and I really was like paying attention to the nonverbals of the players. Like, you see, like, the first episode, everybody is rather rigid. Nobody wants to take the initiative, and everybody's kind of feeling out, what they're about. But now, people are almost making inside jokes, and there's like this, trust in each other. Like, oh yeah, he's just gonna go on my shoulders, and this is how this is. And then, like, Nate, like, really found this heroism. Like, he started off like, oh, I will challenge anybody, but like at this point, like, the things he does, like, I'm like picturing it in my mind's eye where he's sprinting through all of the traps on the way to the cave, for the group. And at that point, it's like, what's going to stop me now? And then he starts smashing like all the stone replicants of the other people just with like his bare hands, and then fleeing from the cave as it's collapsing. It's like, I'm going to grab the other two guys as I'm going out. And I'm picturing all of this, and I'm like, I didn't quite picture, this type of heroic fortitude from Kenta at the beginning. I was kind of picturing like this arrogance, like, no one's going to be greater than me. And we kind of see it develop over time into this really great character, and seeing Nate like really animated, like, as he's like doing all of this cool stuff. Yeah. So I really think that mirrors if you were to do this for like a clinical group, like, you can expect to see like that type of progression where everybody initially is really apprehensive and really unsure of how to interact with one another. But, a few sessions in, it's like, all right, we've formed a trust with each other about like letting ourselves go and becoming truly immersed in the characters and looking out for each other. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, that really makes sense. And,
Shut up, Nate.
So we actually had a little bit more to say on some of the therapy side of Clink than tonight than I thought we were going to. But hey, that's actually a good thing. That's a good thing. I'm not going to complain about that. But I did want to take a minute and actually talk a little bit about some of the things that we're actually currently doing, some of the things we're currently working on, some of the stuff that we're working on that isn't really in season one or really being talked about publicly yet. But I thought it'd be kind of cool to give everybody a little bit of a sneak peek of season 2. Some of the games we're going to be playing in season 2, the lineup we have. Conrad has actually worked a little bit with Jack from the Bodana group, Jack Birkenstock, who we had on the special edition video Degecast a few weeks back. God, I think it's been 7 or 8 weeks back now, if I'm not mistaken. How time flies when we're having fun. But he's worked actually with Jack a little bit to kind of mold our programming more to some of the games that they actually play. I'll let Conrad talk about it. He could talk about it better than I can. I'm just here to introduce him, and God, I can't even do it that well. So, hey, what am I here for, guys? What am I here for? Nobody has an answer. So, Conrad, tell me.
Just utter silence.
Yeah. Horrible soul-sucking
Oh my
silence.
God. Yes. It's been a day. It has been a day.
I'm not even going to cut that silence. It was just too good.
Oh no, please don't leave that
Make
in.
it longer.
Yeah, add crickets. I will.
So, no. But as I was saying, Conrad worked with Jack to kind of mold our programming a little bit more to what Bodon actually uses already. Some of the games they already use with some children in a clinical setting. So Conrad, let's go through the lineup here. Talk about a little bit. Talk just real briefly about each game and what we're going to be seeing next year in season 2.
So. Yeah, I talked with Jack about all the games that they use and why a little bit to a lot of it. And half of the games we're using are games that they use actively with clinical groups. And the other half are ones that he just really highly recommended, or he knows the developers and is able to put us in touch, and he himself sees therapeutic benefits to various games because they focus they have a range of ages, but it's a lot of children focused groups, and we here on the show are display the range. We'll show the games that are appropriate for children, are easier to learn, up to the Deges After Dark games, which are a lot more adult. And one of the games in particular that we get to do that they don't use is I'll just start with Mashed, all caps. And you may have seen historically the TV show Mashed or the movie Mashed.
Just MASH. It's just the name MASH for the movie and the show.
Oh, I see. Okay, because the game is Mashed.
With an ED.
Yeah,
MASH
with
with
an
an ED at the end.
And it is, so it's not directly licensed by this show, but it is the, mobile hospital. And it does, the book's main setting is the Korean War. And
Tony, if you don't play Klinger, I am going to be so upset.
I don't think I've seen any of MASH.
So Klinger is a guy who got drafted to the Vietnam, or it was Korean War, Vietnam War, I think it was Korean War, I forget, wherever MASH was. He gets drafted, but he really doesn't want to be there. So he decides that he's he's crazy, and he cross-dresses. So he's constantly walking around in women's clothing while everybody else is dressed up in their actual uniforms and stuff. Great character.
Okay.
So yeah, the verbiage of what that will be a little bit different if Tony takes on a role like that. he's not going to be crazy for cross-dressing in the game.
Yeah, I mean, MASH took place a long time ago.
Yeah, it was right. So, the 60s it came out.
I want to say it was the 70s, but it
70s?
it took place in a time where people thought cross-dressing was crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a Powered by the Apocalypse game. You take on the role of all these different people involved in the hospital, and there's like the military side of it, and then there's the civilian side of it, and you are trying to, save people from various ailments. And I was listening to, I didn't say it's by Mark Plemons, and it is published by Brabblemark Press. I actually been in communication with all the people that I'm going to list for season 2 here, and Mark directed me toward a podcast review of his game. And one of the things that they use as an example was they, to wartime areas will bring in entertainment. And so this big name movie star actress of the time that was an American icon was flown out to entertain the troops. And something happens where she is injured. And now the decision had to be made where essentially saving her meant losing somebody important in the military. And so now you have to make this decision where you have all of this pressure where, you're going to seriously let so-and-so die to save somebody else. And it's decisions like that give it like the intensity. Like you're not actively in military combat. It really is like the hospital setting and the camp that surrounds it. And you're just making these like moral judgments and not necessarily even mostly moral judgments. Because it's like, if I take this person into surgery, it's going to take like 8 hours. And if I take this one person to do this really extensive surgery, there's going to be like 5 other people who are waiting for minor surgeries, but all of them are going to die if we do that, or they're going to need like amputations or infections, and there's just all sorts of medical issues that can go wrong. And so there's all of this build up based on like those types of decisions. So the game is being used for season 2 to focus on vets and PTSD, and to draw attention also to what people go through in the hospital. And there was actually a nurse who was on this podcast who was like talking about the realism of the game, and she was like, this sounds it's fairly true to like our experience as ER nurses and doctors. So I think drawing attention to the work that they do as well is pretty cool. So that's the first game, and not necessarily in this order. We've got Cartoon Action Hour by Cynthia Celeste Miller and published by Spectrum Games.
I can't wait for this one.
So it is based on 80s cartoons. And so, there are just so many good ones and so many that shaped my own childhood. I mean, He-Man, Voltron, Thundercats, G.I. Joe, even like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, like technically came out in the 80s originally. And just like all of these games, all of these shows, Dragon Ball, actually Dragon Ball Z in Japan was out in the 80s.
Oh wow, I didn't realize it was that, like, it was around that long. Dragon Ball Z, I knew Dragon Ball was, but Dragon Ball Z, I didn't, even in Japan.
Yeah,
I know,
we didn't
crazy.
get it over in the States until much later.
Yeah, it took years for it to come over. Much different than the way anime is now.
Oh yeah, times have definitely changed.
Yeah.
But
But
we're going to be taking a look at Cartoon Action Hour to take a look at kind of what aspects of the therapeutic side of things.
yeah, so something that's pretty cool that we're going to attempt to do for this game and also for Pugmire is in like a skills group, you will do something collaborative. And like a good example is like we're going to plan a camping trip, like what do we need and like what's going to happen there. And so we're going to attempt to have a social skills group create our cartoon for us, with the heroes, the villains, and the setting, and then we will play that out. So one, to encourage the creation of a cartoon as an exercise in social skills groups, but then also for that extra layer of immersion where we're going to play out as the characters that these people come up with in their setting. And the skills age group that it'll be like middle school. So that's what we'll be doing with Cartoon Action Hour. Also with Pugmire, it'll be a different group that's focused with anxiety and a couple other things. But that one will be a girls group, while the Cartoon Action Hour will be a boys group. Also, again, for, to showcase the amount of people that it can help and for that extra layer of immersion. So Pugmire is by Eddie Webb, who is one of the original creators of Vampire the Masquerade, which you may have heard of, as it is, now 20th anniversary edition was not even this, it was a couple years ago, I think.
Yeah, a little bit ago.
It's been around for a while, and that's by Onyx Path Publishing. And so Pugmire, you play anthropomorphic dogs. So like man is gone. In its place are now these like sapiens bipedal dog breeds. And so once again, the group will create the various breeds and characters and backstories and motivations that we will be taking on as players, which I think is going to be pretty entertaining. Excuse me.
Yeah, I just have visions of just like multiple Mr. Peanut Butters.
or a Scrappy Doo. There's, who knows what we're going to end up with, but it's going to be great. We're going to be playing Early Dark by Calvin Johns, and that's published by Anthropos Games. And Calvin Johns is actually an anthropologist, and the game is very obviously influenced by that, as it's very heavily based in culture, and we'll be focusing on cross-cultural psychology and the importance of it there. But you essentially form your characters based on culture. You have all these different existing cultures in the world, and you don't. The way it's described is you don't like create a being out of thin air. Instead, you try to find a hero that exists within the culture, and that's where you find who you play as. And so I think that's super cool and something that we didn't look at really in season 1. I mean, we've talked about it in the Degecast about looking at Japanese culture, but that wasn't really the focus of Clink.
Right.
We are also playing No Thank You Evil by Shauna Germain on Monty Cook Games, and the artwork of No Thank You Evil is 100% like Conrad themed stuff. I mean, it's
like they took all the artwork directly out of his brain.
Yeah, it really feels that way. There's just like all sorts of like wonky stuff going on, and all of these different things exist like in the same world but make sense. Like they show like somebody on like this kid on a flaming skateboard, and then like somebody has like an alien vacuum cleaner. There's just a straight up like monster person who's like riding or there was like a kid riding like a bicycle that like is a monster. There's all this stuff, and it is like a really that's going to be like a really like children focused game because it's so like easy to learn, easy to be very creative. It's really like it's just so imaginative. Let's see, Retro Star by Barack Blackburn and published by Spectrum Games as well. And he actually is going to run that. So we're going to have, the developer.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, yeah. So Retro Star is like 80s sci-fi, and it does sort of follow like the TV show like themes throughout the book, and all of the examples and stuff.
So is it more like a Star Trek or more like Battlestar Galactica or something, or kind of a
huge variety?
Okay, all right.
It gives you it gives you the rules for all of them. So both of those are mentioned as like shows to base off of, but also like Wonder Woman is like one of them, even though it's like superhero, but it's really like at the time like 80s sci-fi. The $1 Million Man, that's like set on Earth, but it's like a guy put together by like all these bionics, and at the time was just like totally ludicrous. And also that it would cost $1 million to do it.
Wrestling nerds think of Ted DiBiase with the $1 Million Man, and sci-fi nerds think of the $1 Million Man. I thought, because my immediate thought was, what the hell does Ted DiBiase have to do with anything here? But yeah, anyway.
No, a man who is on like the brink of death, who was reconstructed with all sorts of machinery, and became basically like a hero, but forced into it by the government because they spent the money to rebuild him.
The
government. So also like a little bit, we are actually going to focus on family dynamics with that one, because it does talk about, all like the different themes, and like family's one of them. And one of the examples of like a style you play is the nuclear family. And so like, for example, like I kind of like the $1 Million Man, where it's like, oh, the family was like in an accident, and the the parents now have to decide like save our family and like sign this contract where now we're going to be sent all over the world because we've all been saved and upgraded. And so like the family dynamics are going to come into play where myself, Nate, Tony, and whoever our fourth member are all going to be a nuclear family with like upgraded abilities.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's going to be a ton of fun. And
I want to be the mom.
You do you, man. And I think that just leaves for the new stuff One Child's Heart by Camden Wright, which is actually still on Kickstarter. But it's going to be really a more educational type game that we really didn't do something like this with season 1, where we're taking on the roles of child welfare professionals participating in a new mental health care memory exploration experiment. And that's taken straight from the Kickstarter page. But it's not a game about trauma or an invitation to tragedy tourism. It's instead intended to be an empathy building experience. And what happens is, while we're put into these roles, we're each essentially given a child who has been traumatized in some way. And we obviously can do no harm. We're trying to help them in any way we can. And so again, that's going to be more of like an educational game where people can see, like lay people can see, and also like what clinical people can expect to see when, dealing with a child who has a trauma history. And so I think that's like super cool that we're going to be doing. And then just we're going to revisit a few games, kind of like what we talked about before, but
revisit
for sure
some old favorites.
Yeah, exactly. Some old favorites. And we're going to be revisiting Shattered. We're going to be going back to Fenris, and Nate's going to be part of the group this time.
I'm going to get to play.
I actually already have kind of like definitely the initial storyline, like how Nate gets involved, and he is privy to it. But Tony's not. We're keeping it.
I won't say a word.
Yeah, keeping that secret from everybody except for Nate, so he knows how he's going to meet the group and join up with them. But we're going to go into all the rules that we omitted the first time.
Just because we didn't have time.
Right, because there's so much depth to it. So you can expect, actual monsters this time. And you know what? I'm not going to spoil anything else.
Yeah,
we're just going to leave it there.
We'll leave it at that.
We're going to continue Kids on Bikes using a different game by the same creators, Teens in Space.
Oh my God. Nelson Sr. in space.
So we'll get to see Nelly age up to 13, probably. We're going to see Sean age up to 15, probably.
Sean Breckenhammer.
Yeah. And good old Chad's going to be, 5 years. Yeah. Chad will have taken a gap year and be in his senior year of college.
There we go.
And then, of course, Senior is going to remain. Was he? However many years he was that many years
45,
young.
I think.
He's going to stay however many. He's going to be 5 years older, young.
Absolutely.
And the last game we plan to go back to is Goblinville. So.
And that one I'm looking forward to as well.
Just
Gobby Jack.
Yes, the goblins. So.
No, I'm certainly looking forward to that. You guys haven't obviously seen our gameplay for Goblinville yet, but that was one of the most fun. That was some of the most fun that I had playing one of these games.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with that one.
Great story. It was just so stupid and wacky,
ridiculous
and
characters.
Ridiculous. Loved it.
So just to quickly summarize that, we're going to be doing all age groups. We're going to hit all age groups. Like there's going to be a game for every age in season 2. We're going to be covering anxiety, PTSD, like military trauma. We're going to be doing skills groups. We're going to be covering a whole lot. There's going to be something for everybody, and we're going to do something new with that educational piece. And then we're going to continue old favorites. So, we got a lot planned.
We got a lot planned. So we are going to wrap up this episode here momentarily. But before we do, I want to take a moment and say a big thank you to actually my company. As I think I mentioned in the last episode of the Degecast, or might have even been the episode before, I don't remember. I was actually able to present this whole project, the Degecast, Deges Dragons, to my company. Roughly 1,000 people, just shy of 1,000 people, and really good response. I had a lot of people ask me questions, reaching out, asking how they can watch, how they can participate. I made a couple connections, couple contacts through it. We actually, I'm going to be working with. Probably working with one of the children of one of my coworkers to kind of create an NPC similar to what Conrad was just talking about in Pugmire or Cartoon Action Hour. She'll be doing a different game. We're not quite sure which one yet, but I want to say a big thank you to the CEO, Sam King. She actually donated $1,000 to the Bodana Group Actually, I did I did talk quite a bit about the Vote Honor Group in my presentation, and kind of how influential they've been for season 2, as Conrad was just kind of telling us about. So a big thank you to them. Thank you on behalf of Jack, and they were like beyond pleased. I was beyond pleased. I didn't expect it whatsoever. So that was really, really awesome, really cool for them to do. But this has been another episode of the Degecast. For Conrad, for Tony, I'm Nate Lindberg, and we will see you next week. Have a good one, folks.